Welcome back to another episode of Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services, Cottonwood Parks and Recreation, and Gettles High Desert Mechanical. I'm your host, Philip Catafamo. We have got a great show in store for you this week. Later in the program, we'll be joined by BASIS Flagstaff Boys soccer coaches Marty Heilman and Brendan Personale to break down the season so far, talk about the senior leadership of their team and who Marty Moose is. We'll then be joined by Mingus Union High School quarterback Zach Harrison. He'll discuss his first varsity start at Mingus, what the team has to do to get a win against Coconino, and speak about his college plans. But on the other side of this break, we'll be joined by former Mingus Union Marauder Nick Yatsinko to talk about his time playing football for the school, his thoughts on his teammates coaching the program, and why he decided to try his hand at color commentary for Yavapai Broadcasting. All of that and a whole lot more coming up right here on Off the Bench. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Starting in the late 1920s, Grandpa Gettle and his brothers laid the groundwork for what would become a family legacy. Almost 100 years and 100 patents later, Gettle's High Desert Mechanical continues to raise the bar of quality heating, cooling, and plumbing products and services in the Verde Valley.
Call Gettle's High Desert Mechanical Heating, Air Conditioning, and Plumbing at 567-2200 or online at GettlesHDM.com, providing solutions for your comfort. Don't settle. Get Gettles.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Gettles High Desert Mechanical. I'm joined now by former Mingus Union Marauder and current broadcaster alongside with me on Friday nights on KYBC and Verde Valley TV. He is Nick Yatsinko. Nick, welcome onto the show for the first time ever.
Phil, thanks for having me. This is great. I stay tuned and watch most of the shows. I got to see T-Bone and a bunch of the coaches from Northern Arizona. But thanks for having me.
Yeah, anytime, man. We kind of, I was talking a little bit with our producer, Ryan Nichols, about, some guest ideas. And I was like, why don't we have Nick on? Nick's a former Marauder. He played under the Renaissance era of Bob Young. Why not bring him back? Why not bring him on? So, Nick, thanks again for coming on, man. I kind of thought we'd start the show off with sort of a catch up on your life. Just kind of briefly take me through what your life was like when you graduated at Mingus and what you're up to currently.
Sure. After graduation, as most people up in that Northern Arizona area know, my family owned Vinny's Restaurant. We still have some ties to it as well, but we don't own it anymore. So basically, I've been down in Phoenix after graduation, did some community college down here. And boy, I have stayed in touch with the Mingus football program and yourself, Yavapai Broadcasting, ever since I graduated. Mingus football never left my life.
Yeah, well, obviously, we'll talk a little bit about your transition from, sort of obviously on the field with the Marauders to going behind the camera and working with Yavapai Broadcasting and now in this new role. Although you and I are 3 seasons deep so far calling games together, but still a fairly new career possibility for you or a possible just, great little side job. But Nick, I want to start off with this. You mentioned it. I've had a bunch of former players on the show. Obviously, the Marauder football coaching staff is full of guys you used to play with. We'll talk about that. But I want to start off, man, what was it like playing under Bob Young? We've heard stories. I asked T-Bone Allred the same question. I'm sure I've asked Eric Casada and any other former Marauders who have been on the show, just sort of what was it like playing under Coach Young during what I'm calling the Renaissance era of Mingus football?
Sure. And I mean, I could go on and on with words of affirmation, that Bob Young taught me so many things, but I would also describe that experience as maybe even intense. He demanded respect, like I've said before, and you and I have talked. He just demanded such a different atmosphere, the respect level that not only you must have given him and the coaching staff, but he gave you as a player and treated you like you were a son. A son or daughter. He gave you life lessons. It was just very, very, very nice to play under him. I'm fortunate to have been a part of that. Like you said, those Renaissance years where we were just a fantastic program. We won a lot of games by blowouts. I mean, we beat up on some teams in my time there, and I was just fortunate enough to be a part of a great group. We had kids that were moving from other schools. We had kids that were moving from Tucson to play under the Mingus football program. And like you and I have been able to witness over the last couple seasons broadcasting, it's going to get back there. It'll get back there. But playing under Bob Young and that coaching staff was something really special, something that I'll share with all of my teammates. Like you had T-Bone on the show and Jordan Woods, who does camera for us on Friday nights as well. Boy, sharing those experiences with those guys is something special. And I'll tell you, it really helped us move right along in life. I mean, we followed Bob Young's footsteps and all the lessons that he taught us. We were able to kind of transfer right into our lifestyle. And you see a lot of success out of those former Marauders. You know,
you talk about some of those life lessons, Nick. Is there anything in particular that's kind of stuck with you since you've graduated at Mingus Union?
Boy, the small details. I mean, the small details stick with you. And that's everything. You know, you and I got to go watch a Mingus football practice, which was great before the season. And we were kind of talking about the differences. And we've gone through some coaching changes. So that's expected. But those small details of, you know, everybody having that same exact jersey on for practice or everybody's toes on the line. Those small details help. You know, once you get into life, a lot of it is about the small details. You're paying your bills on time, you know, just those examples. But the small details that Bob Young taught us, how important it was that you execute and you're a part of the success. You can't just expect success. You have to be a part of it and work hard towards it.
Do you have a specific favorite memory on the field with Coach Young? Anything during a practice, during a game, anything that, you know, when you reminisce on this time that kind of sticks with you?
Yeah, I would bring up a sombering moment. As a matter of fact, we were playing at U of A Stadium, 2005. We lost the state championship to Palo Verde, 15-7, just a one-score game. It was an absolute heartbreaker. And boy, a moment that'll never stick with me was after the game, a lot of crying going on in the locker room. And U of A had these massive cubbies that you were able to fit in with your shoulder pads, and you kind of sat back and, you know, looking around the room after that loss, it was huge. We had a couple losses on the season, but again, we should have beat Palo Verde. That was a game we should have won, and we probably win 7 out of 10 times. Palo Verde had us that day, and I just remember all the slumping going on in the locker room. And I remember Bob Young was right next to me, and boy, he just kind of gave everybody, started with me, just a tap on the thigh pads and on the leg, and said how good of a season that was. And take this moment to, you know, think about the loss, reflect on it. But then we need to move on. You need to move on, bigger and better things. And his speech that followed that was more for the seniors, you know, who were moving on to life after football. And I was just a freshman at that time, but that's a moment I'll never forget. And that stuck with me throughout all 4 years. And it was just such an important life lesson, and he couldn't have been more right.
You know, how interesting you talk about sort of Bob's focus on small details. Like you mentioned, just sort of the very uniform nature of Mingus Union football. Everybody was pretty much on the same level. But in a lot of ways, almost focusing on those small details while also not sweating the small stuff. Like you mentioned, of course, you know, losing in such a high stakes game at a college football field. You know, I know you guys were excited to go down there. Unfortunately, it doesn't go the way that Mingus Union wanted it to go. But for Bob to go, let's not think about what happened on the field, but let's look at it together. Let's look at it as a whole. You know, let's not sweat that small loss, but let's look at what we accomplished this season and what we were able to do with this team and what we were able to get done. And you know, that speaks just to a lot of what Coach Young kind of operates and how he operates. And, you know, like we've talked about what you've taken away, but very much focusing on the small details, but not sweating the small stuff.
Right. And that's what you have to do to move on in life. Every day we have these battles, you win or lose, whether you're dealing with customers or trying to make deals and sales, you win or lose a lot of battles, and you got to just clean the slate and move on to the next one.
Nick, there's a kind of a story. You and I talked a little bit about it while we were at that practice. You mentioned it during the summer. We got a chance to go there, and you and I were walking back from I think it was the freshman baseball field where the Marauders were practicing at the time, because, of course, as everyone knows, the football field was not ready for play at that time. Of course, we're back to normal now. But Nick, Earthquake, there's apparently a nickname. I know it's not sticking around anymore, but it's a great little story, and I want you to share it on the show because I think it's a fantastic story. It does tie you and athletic director Yancey DeVore, another friend of the show. So I want you to tell the story, Nick. Go right ahead. How did you earn the nickname Earthquake?
I'll start with kind of what happened after. So years and years after that was like my gamer tag, Earthquake. And I loved it. I rode that nickname for a long time. And, boy, that was a moment I'll cherish with Yancey DeVore. Like you just said, that was, I got to bond with him, and I've grown to know him over the years. And what a great athletic director Yancey is. And he was my freshman head coach for football. And we were at a game in Bradshaw High School. Real close game. It was a one-possession game. We were winning, and it was coming just a few minutes left in the fourth quarter. Bradshaw had the ball at the goal line. Now, just to set this up a little bit more, I wasn't the most athletic. I was very big.
Yep.
So that was my tool.
Nick, you played center, right?
Correct. Yeah. I was the center. I would also play a little bit of nose guard, which is where the story is headed here. So we were on defense on the goal line. Bradshaw's trying to score to win the game. Obviously, head coach Yancey, he knew I couldn't go both ways all game, but this was a crucial moment, so you might as well. I was definitely the biggest lineman on the freshman team, weight-wise. So he put me in at nose guard, and 2 plays in a row, Philip, 2 plays in a row, Bradshaw tries just a trap right up the middle. And for some reason, maybe it was just I got lucky on those, but the first play I stepped right through. No one even touched me. And the running back's running straight at me. And it's not like I had a lot of tackles on the season. So it's like, oh, what do I do? And I just wrapped him up, brought him down right at the 1 so they didn't get in. Very next play, they did the same exact thing. And the same thing happened. They just couldn't block me, and I tackled them. And the PA announcer for Bradshaw says, oh, man, he says, that Earthquake just stopped us. And that's where the nickname came from. And Yancey DeVore, and obviously the whole team rode that. And just a couple fortunate plays for myself. Like I just said, I wasn't the best defender, but for a couple plays, I got the job done.
Yeah, that's always fun. I remember playing middle school flag football after school. And I also played center because I wasn't as athletic as I thought I was and couldn't play quarterback. So they put me at center. And I kept pestering the coach to let's get a run play. Let's get something. So we ran a play where I snapped the ball. The quarterback touched it, but I hung on to it and was able to rush in for the goal line for a score because obviously the quarterback has to touch the ball. Center can't just run up the middle. And we ran that play one time successfully, and then every other time it didn't work because the ball either got dropped or the quarterback would grab it. I tried to do it one time without telling him. It was a whole thing. But taking advantage of opportunity is my point. We both sharing that same position, and of course, what fun. You get an opportunity to get the big guy in there to get a big stop or maybe a score. But Nick, I want to talk a little bit more about that time that you played in. You play in what I like to call the Renaissance era of Mingus Union football. Obviously, the Marauders were a force to be reckoned with in the 90s, winning the state championship in 1997. There's a little bit of a stretch there where they were kind of in and out of the playoffs. But when you started as a freshman, and maybe even a little bit before then, that's when Mingus started to really make their mark again. They were winning the 4A Grand Canyon region. They were playoff contenders every year. They were either going to the state championship or just barely missed it. So I want to talk a little bit about sort of what that time was. And if you can, kind of take us into not only what it was like to play on the field during that time, but also off the field and what it was like in Cottonwood, that atmosphere of a Mingus football game on Friday night.
Sure. And I'll start with, I'd say it's busy. It was busy. So my brother and I was in 8th grade and I played under Coach Jack Gebhardt at Cottonwood Middle School. And I remember hearing rumors that if you're going to be a freshman next year, you better start showing up to these football practices. And so it was like, okay, obviously my mom got the word of that. I was like, all right, we got to get you to practice. So it started before I even reached that high school level. Yeah. I was in 8th grade. My brother was in 6th grade, and he was attending these Mingus football practices. And many of his teammates were doing the same thing, which is why years after I left, it continued to be, like you said, that renaissance where we made playoffs and did big things in those following years. And it started so young. I remember we had to be up to go to the weight room at 6 a.m, every single morning. 6 a.m, we used to catch some of those late night music videos on MTV right before we had to leave to go to the weight room, freezing cold in the morning. Some mornings you're waking up and like I said earlier, I wasn't the most in shape, but you're just like, man, what am I doing? what am I doing up this early? And we would go and hit the weight room up. Coach Young would have a great program for us. And so that's why I say busy, is because there was just, he always had something going on. Even if you weren't at the high school level yet, like I just said, I wasn't. I was going to 8th grade. I was about to play my 8th grade football season. And our coach, Jack Gebhardt, again, had a hand in making sure that we all went to the high school practice in the morning. You know, that wasn't something you did in middle school. I don't even know if that was allowed to kind of meet at middle school early hours. So we went to the high school. And I remember our coach in middle school kind of keeping tabs on who showed up and who didn't. So that was a very important thing. And just right off the get-go, you were just had such high expectations. And that's kind of where it fell into place. But to touch on the point about the talent atmosphere, my family and I were fortunate enough to own a business up there. So we really got that piece of it, where we knew some of the other business owners and their kids played on the team. Nick already a few different examples there, but the town just shut down. Yeah. And we've seen glimpses of that here in the last couple of seasons. That hasn't strayed too far. I mean, Cottonwood is a football city, and that Mingus High School's big. And that's just like we talk about like Sholo, being so good, Snowflake and Blue Ridge, these power schools up north. Mingus is still in that conversation. It's a school that you don't really want to play if you're one of the Phoenix teams and you see us in the playoffs, because I mean, the jokes go around, those country bred boys, and what are they eating up there? I mean, Mingus football is huge. The city used to entirely shut down. We used to close the restaurant early. Then after the games, we would go to the restaurant. My dad would come unlock the doors to the restaurant, and we would make food for a bunch of the guys. If they didn't eat burgers after the game, which they were grilling every single Friday night, and they were even grilling those during JV and freshman games too. So it was just a fun atmosphere to grow up in, where everything revolved around football, and it just made for such a great program. Everybody cared. Your parents were so involved. My mom and dad did so much besides coach. That's the only thing they couldn't do was coach. And obviously that was off limits for them. But they did every single thing else that they could. You see, the Red Dot is a fantastic program for Mingus football. And that's led by parents. My mom and dad were involved in that heavily. I know the Hockmans, that they were a group of brothers. Their mom was involved heavily. And I can go on and on. The All Reds again. And like, there's just so much that went down, and it just went under the radar. I remember we used to go eat meals before every Friday night game. We used to go to Murphy's and have our meals catered to us. Away games, we had those meals catered to us. And we've seen that too with the away games continued. But it was just such a fun atmosphere to grow up in, made you feel so important, made you feel like you were part of something huge. And reflecting back on it, we were.
Yeah, you very much were. I remember sitting down last season with your mom and dad at your folks' house, and then showing me all the photos. And I've mentioned this on the show before, just all the photos of the town shutting down, of people putting up signs in front of their businesses and letting people know there's game going on. And you're right, that tradition, despite the struggles that the program has seen in the past couple of years, these Marauder fans, these people here in Cottonwood, love this football team. We saw it, Nick, you and I not too long ago got a chance to call the home opener for Mingus Union High School. It wasn't technically homecoming, but it felt like it because the stands were packed with fans. They had seen what this team did on the road, and they wanted to see that at home. And of course, unfortunately, it didn't go the way of the Marauders. But, you know, you're right, that feeling of just sort of everybody knows each other. I'm from a relatively small town in California by comparison, but Cottonwood is a lot smaller than when I'm from. I thought I lived in a small town. you want to talk about small town. Cottonwood is a small town. I know they're smaller, but I mean, realistically, you get the feeling that everybody knows everybody. And becoming friends with you, obviously, through the broadcast and speaking with your parents a little bit more and getting more and more of that, that family feeling that is sort of bred into this town or this city, I should say. It really, really has a lasting effect on you. Like you mentioned, you reminisce about it all the time about, even on the broadcast, we'll talk about, what was it like playing during this time? What was it like, seeing this team play this well? And now, kind of coming here, you've got a lot of your former teammates are now taking over the program. Coach Anguiano you played with, Coach JR you played with, Coach Robert Ortiz. I know he's not the head coach of Mingus Union anymore, but another guy who at one point was a part of the program, Coach Eric Casada, another guy who was a part of the program, even Coach Monsabayas, who steps in, not of course a part of your time. Coach was obviously before you, but another guy, former Mingus Union Marauder, coming back and coaching this program. I mean, now as a broadcaster, as a Marauder faithful, Nick, how does it feel to see a lot of your buddies kind of taking over the program you were once a part of?
I mean, it brings back that great atmosphere. It really does. And it just goes to show it really hasn't left. Every program goes through those rebuilding years, and Mingus is no exception to that. You have to have those years, and they come and go. Unfortunately, the seniors that we've seen these last couple of seasons are working so hard, and they get great accolades. I mean, just to bring up this season in specific, look at Angelo Alvarez. Holy moly, he's got more points and more yards than almost a lot of kids in the state, no matter what level they're playing at. So it's just fantastic to see. I love seeing my old teammates being coaches because I know how well they were coached. They were coached extraordinarily well. I know that their discipline's fantastic. They're going to demand respect just like they were back when they were playing. So it's great to see those guys. And it just goes to show that Mingus football program is still very, very alive at the heart, and it's just blossoming at this point.
Nick, I got one last question for you before we let you go. Obviously, now, as I talked about the opening of the show, you and I doing these games together for now 3 seasons, just about done to wrap up our 3rd season calling games here for Yavapai Broadcasting. But Nick, I kind of want you to give me just a quick summary of how you got started with Yavapai Broadcasting, going into what intrigued you about the potential of doing color commentary with a brand new guy from a different state. Just kind of take me through that timeline.
Well, first of all, you're fantastic, Philip. You really are. You made it easy for me to jump into that broadcast role. But no, it's going to be kind of crazy for me to reflect on and think about. But I've been with Yavapai Broadcasting for about 16 years now. A long time. I got a job at the radio station just out of pure curiosity. I thought radio was really neat, and they were hiring. So I used to set up remotes part-time and help Ryan in the video studio. I used to kind of edit pictures. Then I would go out to remotes. And so I kind of just went and climbed the ladder a tiny bit. Then ended up doing the on-field football. Obviously, when they asked if I want to be a part of the Mingus football, it was a no-brainer. Of course, I want to follow the alma mater and see how they do. So I was in the truck with Ryan Nichols, our producer, doing some graphics years and years ago, which was so fun. Such a fun atmosphere. And then just a few seasons ago, like you said, Ryan says, "Hey, you want to broadcast?" And it was like, all right, let me take a big deep swallow here. And I guess let's give it a whirl. And I've just absolutely grown into it. I've grown into loving it. Really fun time. You do a great job. We've built some chemistry. Jackie Bessler. We got so many guys on our team, Ryan Nichols, who are so dedicated to the Mingus football program that it really did make it a no-brainer for me. I mean, why not jump into the broadcast? And obviously here we are. I get to reminisce and talk about those great memories and talk about the future of the Marauders, which is awesome as well.
Well, buddy, I'm always happy to call games with you on Friday nights. And of course, you can listen to myself and Nick Yatsinko on KYBC and Verde Valley TV every Friday night until the end of the season, of course. But Nick, I say it every time, man. You always get better every year. And it's been fun watching you grow as a broadcaster. And it's always been great calling games with you. And I love you, buddy. And thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, I love you too, Phil. And ditto, buddy.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined by BASIS Flagstaff cross-country coach Marty Heilman right here on Off the Bench. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Two things we can count on every year.
A new set of tax rules and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Gettles High Desert Mechanical. I am joined now by the co-coaches for the boys soccer program at BASIS Flagstaff. On our left is Coach Marty Heilman in the red hat, if you're watching on Verde Valley TV. And to his left, or our right, it is Brendan Personale, who is the other head coach of the program. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on the show to give us an update on the season so far.
Thank you for having us.
We'll first start off, gentlemen. How's the season going so far for BASIS Flagstaff?
So far, so good. We are 4 games into our season. Our schedule is pretty light compared to some of the other teams in our league. So we have 7 games scheduled for the season. Other teams have, at least most other teams have a little over 10. But through the 4 games we've played, luckily they've all been wins so far. This is the first year that we've had any wins in our program, so we're pretty psyched about that. So far, so good. No complaints.
Yeah, a great season so far for BASIS. Who's been the stiffest competition for the team so far this year?
I would say stiffest competition so far has been the 2 games that we played against Page. The first one was a little unexpected. We got there, they didn't have any subs, so we had the advantage from the start. But the second time we played them in the rematch, they had a couple extra players that we didn't see the first time, and that added to their athleticism. So we had to really worry about getting back on defense. But I think we handled business pretty well, considering the circumstances.
Take me through the construction of the team so far. I mean, this year, you guys welcoming in more newcomers. Are we seeing a lot of returners this year? How's the makeup of the team looking so far this season?
So we have a lot of returners. Our team's primarily made up of juniors and seniors, and we have a ton of senior leadership this year. That's kind of been the plan from the start, as guiding the team through that senior leadership. Let them deciding, what type of drills we're going to run in practice, and really letting that momentum and that positivity of them having that control really guide us through the season. So I would say for the most part, it's our upperclassmen that have been kind of setting the example.
Yeah, and if I can add to that, they are just an amazing group of students. I almost said kids, and they're really not kids, because they are incredibly mature and very bright. Here at BASIS, this is a pretty rigorous academic school. And our high schoolers, especially our seniors, are under a lot of academic pressure and a lot of stress. They're taking a full load of AP classes. So for them, this soccer team kind of gives them an outlet, and it kind of gives them a chance to be leaders, because they will be leaders later on in life. They really will, because they are so driven. They're driven academically, and they're also driven to succeed in everything that they do. So they really respond well to us giving them the role of being the leader. And we're trying to help them. It's almost like coaches coaching coaches, if that makes sense.
It does. And it's, I'm sorry, go ahead, Coach.
Oh, I was just going to say, and it's really been inspiring for us to see, especially me, that I've been coaching now for 24 years. And Coach Personale was saying about the game that we had against Page. It was, first of all, I just got to give a lot of credit to the Page soccer team as well, because they traveled all the way here to Flagstaff for a Saturday night game, and they were a lot of fun to play. They were very polite, very respectful, just like our team was. So it was very enjoyable to watch that soccer game. Just the amount of respect both teams had for each other, and the amount of soccer, the talent of soccer, the quality of soccer that was being played. And then just watching our team come together as a team, encourage each other as a team, and coach each other on the field. Mm-hmm. That was really spectacular for us to see. And again, quite really inspiring for me. It's like, really, like we have a future. We have a future with this group of kids that are coming up, these seniors, these young adults. I'm excited for our future. I really am.
I would be too, Coach. And it sounds like you've got a great group of kids this year, as you mentioned, who are not only leaders on the field, but off the field. Relieves a lot of pressure for both of you to have sort of that leadership within the team to sort of keep track of some of the players who haven't necessarily bought in fully just yet, or some of the players who do need a little bit more of that, peer-to-peer coaching just to kind of get them right where everybody's sort of expecting them to be. Coach, you mentioned 24 years as not only a coach, but also as a physical education instructor. Looking through and scheduling this interview, we talked a little bit about you sent me a great article about your classroom and the atmosphere of your classes. Can we talk a little bit about Marty Moose and how that got started?
Coach Marty Moose got started just because mostly from the online, because I was teaching so much online at the beginning of last year. Mm-hmm. And I teach anywhere from first grade all the way up to high school. So whatever I could do to get their attention and to make it fun so they could see me, so they could see me on the screen. And I could be engaged with them and they're engaged with me. So I got this moose hat. I also got like a purple wig hat. I got a pink flying hat. And I started to come up with all these crazy games that I could play online, like throwing socks into a waste paper basket over the couch, you know, or throwing tissues up in the air and catching them, and a lot of fitness, because I do have a background in fitness. So I really try to make fitness as fun as possible and as functional as possible. Right. So it gave me the opportunity to show them that fitness can be fun and that we feel better when we move, right? The more we move, the better we feel. That has been my philosophy. And so I try to really share that. So it started online, and then we needed something to do on Friday. So I started to do Coach Marty dance parties. And so I can't dance. I don't know how to dance, but I did. I would do whatever I needed to do to get those kids up and moving. Yeah. That has since brought back, while now we're in person, I'm still doing the dance parties. Today we had dance parties all day today, man. I was dancing all day.
Well, like you said, Coach, like you said, Coach, just getting them up and moving. Moving is always great. Learning how to properly work out, how to properly eat right, how to properly, even if it's just minor things, can make huge changes down the line. I mean, fitness in general is so important, especially now with a pandemic still going on. We're getting close to the start of flu season. I mean, staying as healthy as you can is always important. And I like that you have a lot of fun with it. I have a photo of the article that you sent me over. I'm going to try to put it up on screen here on Verde Valley TV. You can see Coach Heilman in his little Marty Moose hat. It's just for those listening on KVNA. It's just, your generic sort of strap-on fabric hat that's got some antlers on it. Hopefully Chevy Chase and National Lampoon won't be going after you for some copyright issues. Marty Moose is the mascot of Wally World.
Sorry, folks, the park's closed.
Yes, the park's closed, but never closed in your PE classes. Always lots of fun. But Coach Personale, you were going to say something before I interrupted you.
Oh, no, you're fine. I was going to say the man made a TikTok over the whole pandemic to connect with the kids. So that just shows you the amount of dedication that.
Yeah, I made about 50 of those that I would share online. God, honestly, I was getting a little tired of doing 7 fitness classes a day, so I needed some video backup. It's like, all right. But to be honest, they would do it more if they would see me doing it and if it was live. Right. Then we would connect, and then we would move together. And again, it goes back to, it's movement right now is as much as mental health as it is physical health. Right. And it's because it's so important that we feel good about ourselves right now. And movement does that. Fitness does that. And I do want them to be healthy for life. And I want them to look at fitness. I call it a play out. It's not a workout. It's a play out, because work can be a negative word. We have to go to work. We have homework. No. We get to play out. So it should be fun. It's something we look forward to for the rest of their life. And that's how we kind of look at the soccer team as well. We're trying to make it fun. Mm-hmm. Now in our warm-ups, I'm trying to give them good, strong warm-ups that they can do for the rest of their lives. Proper warm-ups, how to hold a proper plank, how to do a proper squat, how to do a proper lunge. That way they will have those tools in their toolbox. When they get older and they join a gym, they will know what to do, and they will make it fun and purposeful.
Well, Coach, your enthusiasm is inspiring, and I love talking with coaches who are who are not only well versed in the sport that they coach, but also have an enthusiasm for what they do. And I show a lot of respect for that, because I get to do what I love to do every day, and that's get to call sports and be around sports. I have been around it forever. No, I appreciate it. Thank you. I listen. I appreciate it. I genuinely do love what I do here. And
you're looking at two big. He's a Buffalo fan. I'm a Chicago fan. I grew up on Chicago sports radio. I listen to sports radio. I like whenever I get a chance. So your station is always on at my house. And then every weekend. So
well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
I appreciate having you out there and having a local station and giving us this platform to show that what we are doing here at BASIS, because a lot of people don't really even know that BASIS has sports. They just look at it as this academic school. And not only we have sports for all of these students. And now I got to tell you about the high school students too. It's like they just don't play soccer. Our striker is the best basketball player we got. Okay. He's probably one of the best basketball players in the city. No disrespect to anybody in the city of Flagstaff, but he is really, really good. But he's our striker. He's never played soccer before. We have two girls on this boys soccer team. One of them is a freshman, and she is a phenomenal. Three girls. I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. 3 girls on the soccer team, and they are just, I would say, beasts out there. They work so hard. They're dominant. I was going to say the one freshman girl had a cross-country meet in Prescott Saturday morning. I think she took 3rd. She's a freshman. It was a high school meet. Sophomore. She took 3rd. And then Saturday night, she played the soccer game against Page. She played all 80 minutes. She played all 80 minutes, and she played so hard. And it was just, again, I'm just really just inspired by them.
Coach, I know that they're inspired by you. I am as well, and I know Coach Personale is as well. I appreciate you both coming on and talking about it again. Speaking with BASIS Flagstaff co-coaches for boys soccer, Coach Marty Heilman, and of course Coach Brendan Personale. Thank you both for coming on the show to talk about this wonderful program. I look forward to speaking with you guys very soon when we get done at the end of the season. Thank you again for coming on.
No, it was a lot of fun. Thanks for having us.
All right,
we're having us. Yeti Nation, right? Yeti Nation.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Mingus Union Marauder quarterback Zachary Harrison. Stay with us here. We'll be right back.
All right, have a great day, man.
Thanks, guys.
Starting in the late 1920s, Grandpa Gettle and his brothers laid the groundwork for what would become a family legacy. Almost 100 years and 100 patents later, Gettle's High Desert Mechanical continues to raise the bar of quality heating, cooling, and plumbing products and services in the Verde Valley.
Call Gettle's High Desert Mechanical Heating, Air Conditioning, and Plumbing at 567-2200 or online at GettlesHDM.com, providing solutions for your comfort. Don't settle. Get Gettles.
2 things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Cottonwood Parks and Recreation and Gettle's High Desert Mechanical. I am joined now by Mingus Union High School starting quarterback Zachary Harrison. Zach, welcome onto the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we're happy to have you, man. Myself and Nick Yatsinko, who was on the program just a couple minutes ago. Obviously, we call your games on Friday nights, so it's great to get an opportunity to talk with you. I don't get an opportunity to talk with you guys too much during the game because you guys are usually warming up and getting ready. But I thought we'd start from the beginning, man. How did you get started playing football?
So I think I was about 8 or 9. My dad, he's a big football fan. So I was always a baseball player. Like growing up, I always just played baseball. And my dad took me to a youth game one time, and it was like kind of halfway through the season for them. And I'm over there on the sideline telling him, I'm like, that's what I want to do. I want to play football. And he goes, well, you're going to have to wait till next year. They're already halfway through. So the next year I signed up and I played on the youth team. And ever since then, I just had a love for football.
Like I mentioned, you're the starting quarterback for Mingus Union High School. You kind of talk about that first opportunity again to see these kids play some football. You chose the position of quarterback. I'm curious, was that always your position of choice? Was it something that kind of happened as you started playing football at Mingus Union. Why that position?
So the funny thing is yesterday me and my offensive coordinator were talking about how I ended up at quarterback, and he's actually the reason I'm a quarterback today. So when I first started playing, I was a fullback, and I got moved to lineman. I was actually a pudgy kid. So, and then they found out that I could run the ball pretty decently. And so Nando ended up sticking me at quarterback just to run the Wildcat. And ever since then, I've been quarterback.
And then as Coach Fernando Anguiano, of course, the offensive coordinator for Mingus Union High School that Zach is referring to. How interesting you started out as a running back. I mean, do you get a little jealous watching Drew Meyer, now Angelo Alvarez, rushing for all those touchdowns?
You know, every once in a while, I like running the ball here and there, but, you know, I really like being in the pocket and whatnot. So, you know, I'm glad I'm where I'm at, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
And of course, you're entering your third season as the starting quarterback for Mingus Union High School. What does it mean so far? Like I mentioned, you're 3 seasons in so far, wrapping up your senior year at Mingus Union High School. What has it meant to you to be the starting quarterback of this program? I mean, I'm sure you're aware of the history of the program. I believe your dad is a former Mingus Union Marauder. But I mean, what does it mean to you to kind of step into this role as a sophomore and now as a senior, be a part of this program for so long?
Yeah, growing up, I always loved coming to Mingus games, and I was just so excited to finally be a Mingus athlete growing up. And there's always been so much tradition and history here at Mingus, and it's really cool to know that I'm playing on the same team that has so much winning tradition and so much tradition of turning young men into successful people. So being a part of it is really a dream come true. We've had our ups and downs, but I'm glad I'm here.
Well, and I'll tell you what, I know a lot of Marauder fans are happy to have you under center, and it's going to be a big loss after this season because, like I mentioned, you've kind of been at least a constant in the Mingus Union offense. As you mentioned, there's been a lot of changes. You came in with Coach Robert Ortiz as your head coach. Last season was Coach Doug Provenzano. This year it's Coach Dave Monsivaez. But the constant always seems to be that every Friday night, whether we're on the road or at home, number 7 is going to be under center. And it's going to be interesting next season when number 7 is off doing college stuff or whatever Zach has planned in the future. We'll talk about that later in the show. But Zach, I'm curious, any professional athletes or college athletes that you look for inspiration as a quarterback? Anybody that you kind of look at and go, that's who I want to model my game after?
Yeah, my dad is from Denver, so he's a huge Broncos fan. He always had the big John Elway fat head up on the garage wall, and that's part of the reason why I wear number 7. So, I know I was never alive to really watch John Elway, but looking back on his highlights and what he did for the Broncos was always a big inspiration to me. Obviously, Peyton Manning, big inspiration. Recently, isn't everyone looking up to Pat Mahomes right now?
Yeah. You got the fro going like Mahomes.
Right. Yeah. I've been watching a lot of Pat Mahomes, but I don't really try to model my game after anyone. I try to just be myself and try to make my own ways. So,
it's kind of interesting. You mentioned John Elway, a very prototypical quarterback like you, a guy who can scramble, a guy who can step up in the pocket and throw it deep. Of course, you just mentioned the similarities with wearing number 7. So interesting. And also interesting, an Arizona kid didn't mention Kyler Murray at all.
Yeah, I like Kyler Murray. He had a rough game last Sunday, but I like Kyler Murray. Yeah.
I was at that game. I'm a big 49ers fan, so I'm kind of happy about that tough game. But the Cardinals still won that game. But Zach, like I mentioned, man, you're coming into your 3rd year. You step in as a sophomore in 2019 as the starting quarterback. I believe we were on the road to Combs in your first game. Take me through that sort of first varsity start as the starting quarterback. What were you feeling? How were you feeling the week of? Once the game got done, how are you feeling? And just take me through that entire experience of stepping under center for the first time as the starting varsity quarterback at such a young age.
Yeah, so that week, I just remember being super nervous about having big shoes to fill in Antoine. He was one of Mingus greats. So all week, everyone just kept asking me, are you ready? Are you ready? And finally, I think it was a Thursday, I was like, all right, nobody talk to me about football for the next 48 hours. Like, I don't want to talk about it. I'm nervous enough. Friday morning comes around, I'm sick, nervous. I just feel like I'm not ready. And then we get on the bus, and Antoine actually ends up calling me as we're stepping off. We just got to Combs, and he gave me a little pep talk, a little motivational speech, and I kind of chilled out, got in the locker room. Nervousness just came right back, just, wanting to throw up and stuff like that, And then as soon as I stepped out on that field, I knew that I was where I needed to be and that I was prepared for what I had to get done that night. And, as soon as the first snap was scary, being so young and having to go up against all these big kids and whatnot. But as soon as that first drive was over, I was like, okay, I'm here. This is what I'm doing. I'm prepared. And then, I just felt good ever since.
Yeah, very much so. Let's talk a little bit about that pregame routine, Zach. I mean, what do you do to kind of now, of course, you've had multiple starts under your belt now. You're probably a lot more comfortable. We'll talk about that in just a second. But I just want to ask you, what do you do to get yourself hyped up? You said in your first start, you didn't want to talk about football on a Thursday night, just want to get your mind clear of the game. Is that still the routine now, or are you just kind of more focused on, all right, let's keep thinking about execution. Let's keep thinking about football here in your junior and senior year. What kind of gets you fired up, gets you ready before a game?
Music. I'm a big music fan. I'm always the one on the speaker, blasting music and trying to get everyone rowdied. And, I don't really have a solid pregame routine. I just throw on my pads, and I really don't even like warming up. I just want to go play. Warming up is kind of boring.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of football players would agree with me. You just want to get out on that field. So I really love music. It helps the time go faster. I just talk with my boys, try to kill time, and nothing really special about my pregame routine, but yeah.
Are you guys kind of talking about football when you guys are chatting up, or just talking about literally anything else?
Yeah, we like to talk about, how good we're going to do that night or something stupid like that, or, talk about the dinner we had at Cold Grill the night before. Yeah, really just anything, we just try to lock in before the game, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Zach, I kind of want to ask you this. You had two running backs this year in Angelo Alvarez and Mekhi Arnado, both of in multiple ways, and same with Hunter Perkins and Austin Worf. So it's sort of a running back by committee this year. But I want to single one out. I want to single out Angelo compared to Drew Meyer. Obviously, Drew last season was somebody you could hand the ball off to, and he's going to carry it about 15 yards, no problem. Angelo is really kind of blown up as well. Another guy, you hand the ball off to him, he's going to take off 10 to 15 yards. How have they both kind of fit in the offense for you? And, I don't want to ask who your favorite is, but what are the differences between the two?
Drew is a very good power runner. He can run through somebody, and Angelo can too, but Drew is really good at taking hits and powering his way for a first down here and there. And Angelo is really good at finding a hole and slipping behind somebody and making cuts and whatnot. And both really good running backs. And me and Drew and me and Angelo all had a really good connection and a good relationship through high school. So I think they're really both great running backs. I think they're both going to be Mingus legends, but both of them obviously have differences. But yeah, both great running backs.
Like I mentioned, Zach Harrison, we were speaking with Mingus Union High School starting quarterback Zachary Harrison. Zach is in his final season at Mingus Union High School as a starting quarterback for the program. How comfortable now, man, are you in this offense in your third season starting at the position?
It's funny you ask, because I would like to think that I shouldn't be comfortable just because it's my third offense in 3 years. But
that's a good point.
It's actually a combination of the offense I learned my sophomore year and the offense I learned my junior year. So having that combo between the two offenses I've already learned, as opposed to putting in a brand new offense this year, has made me feel really comfortable in knowing what I'm supposed to be doing, knowing where I'm going with the ball. So I feel pretty comfortable with our offense, yeah. And to add on, is the guy calling plays for us was my offensive coordinator when I first started playing football. Oh. So we already have a good relationship there. So
it's good. And it's good to have that consistency. You talk about, we mentioned it, you've had 3 head coaches so far in your high school career, 3 completely different offenses. Coach Ortiz wanted to run more of a spread, kind of more passing. And of course, Coach Provenzano, somewhat of a wing T offense that Coach Bob Young used to run at Mingus Union High School. This year, it's, like you said, a combination of both. We're seeing you air out the ball a little bit more, which was something that myself and Nick Yatsinko were curious if we were ever going to see during your time. But it's nice to see you guys sort of air out the ball a little bit, like you said, combining those two offenses. But Zach, I want you to take us through the atmosphere at the Cave. I've talked with so many former Marauder players who have played in the heydays of Mingus Union High School. You know, they played years ago, but I want to get your opinion on what it's like to play on Friday nights in Cottonwood for these Mingus Marauders.
Yeah, so traditionally we start up in the weight room and we watch highlights of past Mingus teams and just kind of sit there. Everybody's silent, and we run through the film. And last Friday we ran through some. I think it was the last team that went to state. We ran through their film and got to see some of the Mingus greats play. And then we transition down, or we take a 5-minute period up in the weight room where it's just the players, no coaches, and we talk amongst ourselves. And then we transition into the locker room. Got the music blasting, warm up, and then as soon as we get back in there, it's go time. We lock in. We're quiet for about 5 minutes, and then the hype starts going in there, music bumping, chants, all that stuff. So it's a fun atmosphere. And then especially running through the tunnel, we got the fog and the strobe lights. So it's definitely a cool experience that a lot of other high schools don't get to experience. We have a lot of cool volunteers who have made those experiences possible for us. And so it's definitely a cool atmosphere that I'm very glad I got to experience.
I couldn't agree more. I'm coming from an outsider perspective, looking in, coming from California, coming here to the Cottonwood area. I've never once experienced, even covering sports in my hometown, covering high school sports, I have not witnessed or felt any kind of camaraderie or family atmosphere that I get here in Cottonwood. I mean, these residents bleed Marauder red. I'll tell you what. And Zach, I know you know that your folks own a business here. You guys have been in the area for a very long time. Your brother played at Mingus Union as well. I know you yourself bleed Marauder red, and now you're kind of stepping in and experiencing all of this yourself. So I'm not surprised at all that it's exciting. Do you have a favorite memory? I know your season's not done yet, but do you have a favorite memory so far of playing at Mingus Union?
Yeah, actually, it's not one of my years that I played at Mingus. It was my freshman year, and it had to have been beating Bradshaw in the playoffs. It was the second time we beat them that season, and that was just a great feeling. Just being on the field for that, like being one of the freshmen that was able to travel with varsity. Mm-hmm. It was very cool to be in that locker room, be in that environment, and I don't know how to really explain it to you, but yeah, it was different. Beating a team twice is really hard, and then especially being in the playoffs. And I'm glad I experienced that because I got to know what it was like to win region as a Mingus football player. So that was really cool.
It's interesting you bring up Bradshaw Mountain, because my next question is, who is the toughest opponent you've faced so far in the 4A Grand Canyon region? I mean, we've had 3 years now of some tough competition. I'd say this year is the closest it's been in a while, but in your opinion, who's been the toughest team to face?
Man, Grand Canyon, you just can never really pinpoint any team that's ever been cream of the crop, so every team we face in the region is always way different than our freedom games. It's always much more intense, much more physical. I think as far as the most sore I ever walk away from games on a Saturday morning is either Bradshaw or Prescott. Bradshaw always, obviously the rivalry there, it's always very aggressive, and Prescott as well. They are very aggressive when they play Mingus. So I think Bradshaw and Prescott are the two most violent games that we play all year. I think every other team obviously brings what they have to the table, and so you can't really count anyone out in Grand Canyon. But yeah, I'd say Bradshaw and Prescott.
Well, we've had a fun competition against Bradshaw already. Obviously, the Marauders will play Prescott at home in their final game of the season on November 12th. And of course, we've already gotten an opportunity to see this team play against Flagstaff. We're coming up close to a matchup against Coconino, which we'll talk about here in just a little bit. But Zach, I want to ask you, what are you going to miss about playing football? I know we're not done yet. You still got a couple more games left, but what are you going to miss about Friday nights in Cottonwood?
I think I'm going to miss just hanging out with my guys every day and, laughing with them, cracking jokes, practicing. And I'm definitely going to miss the atmosphere on a Friday night, post-game dinners, pre-game dinners on Thursday nights where we all just go hang out and drive around after and do whatever. And I'm definitely going to miss our Wednesday pre-practice Madden games. We get out of school early on Wednesday, so we always come over and play Madden.
Who's the team you play as?
We usually select randoms, but you know, I gotta go with the Broncos.
Okay.
Always. But football's not always about playing football. You know, most of it is just building a brotherhood and building bonds with all the guys that you see every day. So I think I'm going to miss that the most.
Okay. Again, we're speaking with Mingus Union High School starting quarterback Zach Harrison. Zach is in his final season at Mingus Union High School as the starting quarterback. However, Zach also plays baseball for Mingus Union High School, so he's still got a whole nother sports season to look forward to. Zach, you're stepping into your final year as a baseball player, the starting catcher for the varsity team at Mingus Union High School. Just kind of briefly, man, what got you started in baseball, and why'd you pick catcher?
I couldn't tell you what got me started. I have been playing baseball since I was 3, so I really don't remember. That was my first love. But yeah, I don't know. I've always been a catcher. I was a catcher in T-ball. So, you know, I've always just been a catcher in that. I can't really play anything else. That's all I'm really good at. So I don't know. I've just been catcher my whole life.
Do you have any similarities between the two positions of quarterback and catcher?
Oh yeah, most definitely. Catcher is the field general, just as a quarterback would be. You know, you see the whole field, you tell people where to throw the ball and whatnot. So yeah, just being a field general on the baseball field is the same as being a field general on the football field.
And again, Zach coming into his final year. Any plans for college? Any plans for after high school in general? Where's Zach Harrison going to be when this school year is over?
Yeah, I'm going to go to college somewhere in Arizona. I haven't decided. I'm seesawing between GCU and NAU.
Okay.
I love both campuses. My mom went to GCU, so
did I.
Yeah, it's nice. It's kind of in the hood, but I like that.
Yeah, it very much is. And you were just there not too long ago playing against Alhambra, which is right across the way from Grand Canyon University. But as a former Lope, I do have a lot of friends who did go to Northern Arizona University. Obviously, you got a couple opportunities to play up at the Sky Dome. Beautiful campus at NAU, but I have to say a little biasly, I'd lean more towards GCU, but I'll let you decide on that one. You got Troy Hoke over there in case you need a buddy to lean on to. But again, we're speaking with Mingus Union High School starting quarterback Zach Harrison. Zach, the Marauders are facing another region opponent in Coconino. We talked a little bit about the toughness of the region itself. Coconino, obviously a team who's usually at the top of the region. You guys are looking for a region win this season. How are you feeling going into this matchup against the Panthers, your final matchup against this team right now? What do the Marauders have to do to get a win?
Just be disciplined. Coco is a very one-dimensional team. They have the wing tee. They like to run the ball. They like counters, reverses, all that. And, you know, if we're just disciplined and we do our jobs, I think we can come away with that win. Especially knowing that last year, them being the best team in the region and us almost pulling off that win, I think we have a lot of confidence going into Coconino.
All right, one last question for you, Zach, before we let you go. At the end of the Bradshaw game, you guys were running the Philly special, potential running back to quarterback pass for a touchdown. You want one more shot at that?
I'd love to catch a touchdown. I'd love to. So, you know, if the time's right, why not?
Exactly. Well, Zach, thank you very much for coming on the show, man, to talk about your experiences at Mingus Union High School. I know that we still got the baseball season to look forward to along with the rest of the football schedule. So best of luck. We look forward to seeing you out there on Friday night, along with Behind the Dish during the spring season for Coach Casada and the Mingus Marauder baseball team. But thank you very much for coming on.
Appreciate it.
That's going to do it for this episode of Off the Bench. I am your host, Philip Katafama, wishing you a great rest of your week. I want to thank all my guests for coming on the show. We'll see you again next time.